understand what went wrong. I know we can find a way. I know we can find a way. I know we can find a way to stand up, stand up, stand up. Men throughout the world today must protect the family.
Welcome to the show. My name is Lee Peterson. Let me remind you that this is a two-part series on Judge Clarence Thomas. We're talking about the confirmation of Judge Thomas to the Supreme Court. And in case you saw last week's show, the audience that we have are the same people. That's why they have on the same clothes, as well as the guests. All right. Let me just remind you who my guests are for those that are tuning in for the first time. My first guest is Frederick Leroy Davison II. He is the author of The Black Thoroughbred. Can we get a shot of that real quick? Okay. Okay, he's the author of The Black Thoroughbred. Also, Dennis Schutzman. He's a reporter for the Los Angeles Sentinel. Earl Hutchinson. He is the author of The Mugging of Black America. Can I get a shot of this, please? The Mugging of Black America. We're going to let you know how you can purchase these books in a moment. And also Joel Woodert. He's the director of marketing for Spann, which is Brotherhood Organization of a New Destiny, located here in Los Angeles, California. Earl, before I go to my audience, you said that you had a concern about the opposition of Judge Clarence Thomas. What kind of concern do you have?
Well, as you know, there's a considerable opposition to Judge Thomas from some black organizations, but more particularly white liberal organizations, and I guess so-called radical or progressive organizations, and a lot of legal scholars, and also women's organizations too.
Right.
So I looked at it very closely, and I'm not contesting the credentials of the NAACP, obviously, or some of the other legal professors and scholars and theoreticians and organizations. I'm sure they're impeccable, their credentials, but there's a problem there. I had to ask myself this: why did they jump on this bandwagon so fast against this one black judge?
Right.
Now, I looked at it a little bit closer, and I wondered if there had been a Jewish conservative that had been nominated by George Bush to the Supreme Court, would Jewish legal scholars, Jewish organizations, and others have come out so fast? If this had been a white woman, no matter what her views on abortion, okay, had been nominated, would all the white feminist groups have come out against her so fast? Certainly if a Latino had been nominated to the Supreme Court, there's no way in the world you can tell me the Hispanics would have jumped on the bandwagon against him like they did on Judge Thomas. All I'm simply suggesting is this: it makes me a little suspicious. It makes me a little suspicious to see this tremendous, overwhelming rush of opposition to Judge Thomas, because I think that each of these organizations would not have opposed one of their own with the same speed. I think they'd have been happy to have one.
I disagree.
What do you say,
I disagree with that completely,
and why is
because
that?
history has pointed out that in the past, Jewish groups have came out against Jewish people who did not meet the needs, interests, and tastes of their particular political ideology. Right. Whites have done it in the past, Southerners have done it in the past, women have done it in the past. It's completely ludicrous to say that if you've got somebody up there that completely disagrees with your historical and your political and economic frame of references, you should support them.
Joel, what do you? Let me ask you, Joel. What do you say?
I think the concern and the fear may be that he's challenging the status quo. He's challenging this, and be it a feminist group, a black base group, a male group. Thomas, because he can't be pigeonholed at this point, is wreaking fear and havoc in those that are very comfortable with the status quo.
Earl, let me just go back to you about the concern for Judge Thomas, the reaction of the community, especially the liberals. I noticed that as well. Why do you think that they reacted that way to him in particular?
Yeah. I think that there's certainly political reasons. I mean, legitimate reasons to be against, Judge Thomas, if you certainly feel that Judge Thomas is not going to be a strong supporter of affirmative action, if you feel there's some suspicion that he's going to vote against Roe versus Wade and he's against choice, obviously there's an agenda which would be diametrically opposed to the liberal position.
Right.
But at the same time, I also feel this, that Sandra Day O'Connor refused to take a position against Roe versus Wade during her hearings. Judge Souter said nothing. And a number of other judges that have gone up for confirmation, not just for the Supreme Court, by the way, but there's confirmation hearings that go on all the time.
Right.
And I didn't see any of the level of opposition to those individuals. So I think despite overriding political objections, I still feel it's a question of color. Here you've got this one black man who I think is a fair target for these groups, and they think they can go at him with impunity. One other thing on that. What even disturbs me even more is why, as African Americans, are we allowing ourselves to get sucked into this trap? Why couldn't we just do what the Urban League did, which I think was an honorable position? You know what their position was? No position. We're neutral on it. We're going to stay out of the fray. We have our agenda, we have our position, and we're going to continue to fight for it. But we're not going to get sucked into this thing over blasting this black guy over here. We're not going to do it. And I think the NAACP erred. They should have stayed out of it too.
Personally, I think that the motto of the NAACP is a time out for that. It seems like the way they used to do things is no longer feasible in today's society. Does that make sense, or you agree with that? Or?
Look at the opposition. Does the national leadership really speak for the local, the grassroots anymore? I think they're out of touch. I think, in fact, that basically you've got a middle class agenda there with a sea of poverty out there. They're not speaking for the masses. And the proof of that, back to the Thomas issue again. Here's the Compton branch of the NAACP, not 15 to 16, for Thomas, 32 to 0 for Thomas. Grassroots speaking. Now you tell me, does that reflect the national leadership's thinking? They're out of touch.
And plus they have Bond, Brotherhood Organization of a New Destiny, 100% behind it. What do you want to say there, Dennis? Keystone?
I'm a life member of the NAACP. I got a reform school because of the NAACP, so there's only one thing wrong with the NAACP as far as I'm concerned, and that's nothing. But to get to the point of Judge Clarence Thomas, he is being placed on the Supreme Court to deal with legal issues. If you just, aside from who he's married to, and he grew up in Pinhead, Georgia, wherever he's from.
Pinpoint.
Okay.
Pinpoint.
There too.
Pinpoint, Georgia.
He is being placed on the Supreme Court to deal with legal issues. Okay. From what we can see, he has not had a good record as it relates to the law, and as it relates to the law as it pertains to African Americans. For those two reasons, I don't think he should be on the Supreme Court. If he goes on, I wish him Godspeed, and I just hope to hell he doesn't do anything to hurt us.
Nobody yet has answered my question. If not Thomas, who?
I could name about 15, 16
They will not be nominated. You know that as well as I
Name me
do.
one.
But that's not my problem. Just because
They will not be nominated.
Just because
they will not
Bush
be
doesn't
nominated,
want him.
and you know that as well as I do.
Who?
Drew Days.
No chance.
Okay.
No
How about
chance.
Fred? Who you
Reginald
think it should be?
Allende.
No
Reggie?
chance.
Who you think it should be if not Thomas?
I think Drew Days too.
Oh, you do?
Well,
Okay, you have a statement?
I want a castle in the Bahamas too.
I'd like to say
Me too.
support Judge Thomas, and I respect him, and I think any job that he's been in and will be in, he'll do the job to the best of his ability. And I have a couple of comments as far as the last show is to I forgot his name,
Frederick.
but Frederick. You said that you have to know your culture to make it. Well, obviously, Judge Thomas must know somewhat about his culture because he has made it, and he's made it very, good.
But
I mean,
he didn't make it.
successfully and
It doesn't necessarily have to be his culture. Thomas came up in a Catholic environment. He was well educated. But what does the youth do in the ghetto who is not even educated? You can't change history. You have to know your culture to get on top.
well, one thing they could do is look at what his life and what he did, and they could.
But
really
they
follow
can't
his-
identify because he
and-
got a white woman.
But then he's also done something already for the black people.
Yeah, he's done great things.
Which,
I'm proud of him too.
For one thing, he has us talking, communicating, talking about law And you don't find too many black people talking about law nowadays.
But if your
And-
son, if your little son there sees Thomas and his wife together, and he see him with a white woman, he gets kind of confused. He say, "Mama, why that woman don't look like you?"
No, my son doesn't get confused about that.
Oh, he doesn't.
No, he doesn't.
Okay.
And then also you said that they put the black women, put us on welfare. Who do you mean they? Who are they that put us on welfare?
Slavery, white America. We
Because
came
I'm
off
on
of
welfare.
slavery unequipped, so it was nothing left for us to do but to go to welfare. We
Okay,
was unequipped.
I'm on welfare right now. Okay, and I attribute my being on welfare to myself and a black man, the black
That's the
man
same
that
thing I
was
say in
with.
my book.
Okay, for
But
not-
it comes from
if he
slavery,
would have
see?
been responsible for his part of the
But
situation that we're in, I wouldn't
if
be
you
on
take
welfare.
a race
So-
of people
but see,
and
that
put them
was
in
a-
slavery
that
and
was
take
100 years
all their
ago.
education
But-
from,
but we-
it
but we-
comes
we
off.
can't- we have to start with
I know,
now,
I know you're
see?
saying the same thing I'm saying.
we
You're just saying it
can't
different.
we can't you know, and you were saying Thomas has a white mentality. What is a white mentality?
When you don't think black with your mind, body, and soul.
But see, that doesn't make any sense because
I
he's
know,
thinking,
I
what
know.
he's
New
thinking,
things don't make it sense.
But
You,
see,
you mean it
but
didn't make any
obviously
sense?
he must be thinking something
You know, whenever
right
you- but
with
let-
his mind,
whenever
body, and
you-
soul.
Whenever you get new wisdom, it won't make sense.
Okay, you have a question? Another question?
Yeah, I was asking Joel what about the white black. Should a person just wait and be alone for the rest of their lives until they find a decent black person? I mean, he's only human. I mean, what do you think about?
You want to respond to that?
I think everyone has a right to be happy. And if you can find happiness within your ethnicity or your culture, it's good. But sometimes you have to look outside of culture in a couple of ways. His wife, for example, is a lawyer. She's also a conservative.
We got black women that are
But
lawyers.
what I want to point
We
out
got
is,
black women that are conservative.
I understand that, but what I want to point out is when a couple starts to develop some sense of bonding, there are so many factors that come into play. And I think there's a tendency here to put a little too much emphasis on the fact that she is not black.
If we
I
don't
think-
lead the world, it can't be too much in. You can't change history.
I don't think he's trying to change history. What goes on in his bedroom is a totally
No,
different thing.
I'm talking about
But
a family. The whole black family
but
can't
hang on a
change history.
second.
We can't be leaders without a culture.
I don't think he's trying to be a leader without a culture. But the point of it is he has a right to be happy. And if you can find it within your community, I think it's good. But if for whatever reason you find that there's some kind of affinity, communication, some bonding, some respect, some appreciation, some
Find it
values,
with a black woman.
okay, then that is
Find
a
it with a
hard
black
thing to
woman.
walk away from. And if he has chosen not to, for whatever reason,
Man, we
you know,
got a
be
lot
married.
of black women can do what that white woman doing a many times
But
over.
you don't know what that white woman is doing because
What,
she's
I know
not.
a sister can do it better.
Hang
I
on
know
a second.
that.
Hang on a second.
I know
Hang
a
on a
sister can
second.
do it better than whatever she's doing it.
But here again, we're in an area.
If I had my way, I'd take him and the white woman out and hang both of them. That's what I'd do.
I see, but I'm glad you don't have your way. I'm glad you don't have your way on
White
this
folks was
point.
Christian when they had us in slavery and hanging us for looking at them white women.
Let me ask Earl.
Right
this.
about that.
I heard a lot about the statement that Judge Thomas made about his sister being on welfare,
Yes.
and the people just sort of ran crazy with that. What do you think about that statement?
Well, if he indeed said that, okay, if that was a direct quote, an accurate quote, I think it certainly was inaccurate and reprehensible. I think,
Do you know
if
about the
anything,
statement?
you'd have to look at the circumstances of MMA Martin. That's his sister. Basically, in fact, it's an irony there. She epitomized a woman that really pulled herself, up by her bootstraps, so to speak. She only went on welfare for a brief period of time,
Right.
and only because, number one, the failure of the state to provide adequate child care, health care, because she had to take care of the kids when her aunt or grandmother, I forget, left, was ill, and also they did not provide child support, the husband that wasn't there. So I think, and then she finally got off, finally has a productive job, and I think she's an exemplary model of success. And I think what Thomas did, to his perhaps disgrace, was to condemn her, because she did show self-initiative, not just the welfare mentality. And to his everlasting credit, what he did was he came behind and said, "I'm proud of my sister." He
Yeah.
did make another statement, and that is to his credit.
Did
He
you
said
upset
that
about-
this week.
You did what?
Okay, that was
And
then.
his sister was
This is
sitting
now.
there every
She sat through
minute
it.
during the
Yeah.
hearings.
She sure did.
Every minute.
And that is not unusual for people to be brought up before the Senate Judiciary Committee and put their best foot forward. Let's talk about before last year and back, okay, what kind of person was Clarence Thomas? He was the same person who white folks at Holy Cross could feel comfortable walking up to him on April 4th, 1968, when Martin Luther King was shot down. He said, they've just killed Martin Luther King. White folks felt comfortable enough to walk up to him and say, I hope the nigga dies. I have a
And
problem.
then what did he do?
What did he
What did he
do?
do after
But
that?
what did he do?
No,
But
that's
what-
not true.
No, hang on a
That's not
second.
true. He dropped out of the seminary after that.
Well,
What-
he didn't drop out.
hang
sure
on a
did.
second.
Yes,
Oh,
he
yeah.
did.
That was a
No, it
turning
wasn't at Holy
point.
Cross. It wasn't Holy
Hang on a
Cross. It was
second.
at the seminary.
That was
It wasn't
that
Holy
was a
Cross.
turning point.
Hold on, guys.
That was a turning point in Thomas's career when that
Let me just
happened.
say-
That's when he transferred from that seminary to Holy Cross because of
Exactly.
that
Came before
remark.
Holy Cross.
Because
Okay,
of
hold
that
on to
remark.
number 2. We have to take a break, and I'll be right back. Okay, thank you.
Then it's point of you're a reporter now. Get your
Come on
facts
now.
straight now. You're
Welcome back to the program. We're discussing Judge Clarence Thomas. And just before we went to break, Dennis, you made a statement about Judge Thomas and Dr. King, right? We want to sort of clear that up because I don't think that was a true statement.
Well, it was true up until last week.
Okay.
I don't know what he said during the confirmation
I
hearing.
just want to make a correction in regard to that statement. That statement was said within Judge Thomas's hearing, but it wasn't said directly to him. And it was from that statement that he was directly responsible for him leaving the seminary.
I disagree with that. He might have said that during the confirmation hearings. Before that time, it was well publicized. It was said to his face, so I will stick with that since I didn't see the hearings. Number 2, though, let's talk about his record at EEOC. If he's such a hotshot lawyer, okay, and he was so great for our people, you know, why did he let a whole lot of civil rights cases lapse? I have a problem with that as well.
Okay, what are you going to say?
We were speaking.
Excuse me for a minute. You want to respond to that?
No.
Okay, go ahead.
I do.
Okay, I'll come right back to you. Go
We were
ahead.
speaking to Dr. King. And we all applauded when he said that he would like to see the day when we were judged by the contents of our character and not the color of our skin.
That
Why-
means welfare slavery.
Why?
Don't make leaders.
Why not here? Why can't we judge Thomas as for the content of his character and not the color of his skin? Aren't we in America? Why do we all have to be Africans?
Why
Just
do we?
because
Why
just because
all
we're
of our
black.
people have to be on welfare, the lowest?
I'm not
place in
asking
the
that. I'm
world?
saying
Come
why
on,
do we have to be
Come on.
why do we have to be Africans? We're here in America. I don't know anything about Africa. I've never been there.
No, African culture doesn't mean you go to Africa, man. I've never been to Africa either. A culture is being proud of one race. You don't
But-
have to go to Africa
but
to have African culture.
Why do I have to be proud of
The
what?
Jews don't go back to Jerusalem, but they still a place
How
for
can I be
themselves.
how can I be proud of a country or a culture that I never
Well, what are you
identified
proud
with?
of?
How come I can't be proud to be American?
But that won't get us off of the ground, man. You
I'm
can't
I'm
change
off the
history,
ground.
though.
I'm raised in
You off of
poverty.
the
My
ground.
parents
I'm
were raised
talking
in
about
poverty.
the masses. This is one big family, man. We got to get all the masses
Well,
up off
if
the
it's
ground.
an individual effort, if everybody will look at the key and make it an individual effort and not
Where
try
do you
to
live at, man?
come at as a
Where
group.
do you live?
I live all over. I have a
Okay.
house in
You
Oregon,
know
I
where
have a
I
house
live?
in
I live in
Bakersfield, I have a house in
South
LA.
He's a universal
I live
man.
in South Central because I went back down there to make a difference.
Okay. Let me just ask Earl.
And I want to comment on this.
Go ahead. Yeah. That's what I was going to ask you.
Not
In
the-
your book, let me just say that, in your book, The Mug of the Black American, and I want to sort of do a little promotion for you right here as well have you comment on that. Because within this book, you did give some solution to all this stuff that's going on. And what do you say about all this? And
Well,
what do you just,
okay.
can we get a copy of the book? No? Okay. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
The Mugging the Black America basically deals with crime, drugs, African Americans, the police, racism, exploitation, oppression, and how we can get out of the mess we're in. Okay, victims, victimizers, all the issues we talked about here and more. But I want to say something here. You're hearing all kinds of different opinions
Yes.
from the audience, from the panel here. You know, we're all African Americans in this room, and we're all saying different things from different positions. But there's one thing that unites all of us. We are black.
Yeah.
And I'm saying, this gentleman here said, I'm an American, why can't we be American? This gentleman here said, no, the African culture. Somebody else said over here about women, men. Judge Thomas, he's, you know, I'm against him because he's this. I say I'm for him because he's that. What I'm trying to say is this, and the precise reason why I think we should support a Thomas, because listen to what's happening here.
That's right.
Listen to what's
That's
happening.
right.
Everybody's saying different things, but we're still all part of that one family. It's just like, you don't just take one road to get to Chicago. You can get to Chicago with many different
right.
routes. But the point of the matter is, you're all going to the same place. We're all faced with the same oppression, the same exploitation, colored, class, race. We're all trying to move up. You may do it one way, he may do it another way. He may think one thing, he may think something else. But the point is, we're still all in the same boat together, which goes back to my argument, and so is Judge Thomas.
If the masses don't change the way they think, Jesse, and become proud black men and women, they're going to forever be on welfare slavery.
On the
You
subject
can't
of
change
Clarence
it.
Thomas
Yes.
You can't change it.
and his concerns and comments about welfare, you know, I was shot last November in D.C. at a phone booth, and I almost died. Okay, lost my business, the whole bit, and I was on welfare for 6 months, and I was glad of it. Okay,
But that
I
was
wasn't
emergency
against. I
case.
wasn't against it that before then. And I'm certainly not against it now. The point I want to make is that with respect to Judge Thomas, and I wish him well. Okay, I hope he will be confirmed and all that. But
You
know,
do?
Oh, he'll be confirmed. But
He changed his
Are we
mind.
having a
that-
confirmation conversion here?
oh no, you're not going to convert.
changed
You're
his
not going to
mind
convert me
since
on
the point of view
it.
here.
But what you're going to hear though is that before he was well coached, there was a great deal of information about Clarence Thomas. Because he's done very well in the confirmation hearings, does not negate the fact that he had a life prior to August 1991, and that's what I'm sticking on. The life before 1991 does not engender to me any kind of positive support for Clarence Thomas. It's plain and simple, and I'm not backing down off of that.
Okay, what do you want to say?
I just wanted to make a comment. I work for the welfare department, and I don't know exactly what Judge Thomas said, but it is time for a reform in our welfare system, and that reform should come soon. I see young teenagers, 18-year-old, I listen to them. Their plans are leaving the home and getting on welfare as a way of life. There are too many able-bodied men on welfare. Sure, welfare should be there for those of us who are disabled and who needs it, no doubt about it. But for youngsters coming up, don't even want to graduate from high school, their goal is to be on welfare, it's ridiculous, and something should be done about
That's
it.
right.
Thank you. Did you know that one of the qualifications for being on welfare now is that you have to be a drug addict? You can go down there and say I'm on drug, and that's a qualification to be on welfare. And what I find is that a large percentage of the black men are on welfare because they're drug addicts.
Yeah.
And I think that's sad. That's pretty ridiculous.
Give
I want
them-
to talk about it. Oh, yeah, let's talk about your book for a minute.
Okay.
How is your book going to resolve this issue between being black and doing what is right in America?
But my book says the welfare is the worst thing ever happened to us, and we don't need to be on welfare.
Can you hold it up so we
Yeah.
get a view of that?
And we don't need to be on welfare. And it's not in the bookstore, so you have to order. Is it all right to give the number?
Is that all right?
800
Give it anyway.
745-0815. It's 800-745-0815. And it not only, the book not only tells us to get off welfare, but it's the first novel that has a step-by-step formula to show us what steps to take to get off welfare and become the new leaders of the world.
Okay, you know, for a long time, I didn't realize that there were so many conservative blacks. Whenever you look at the media, they always showing liberal blacks, and we all, you know, have the same idea. Isn't this a good thing that we can now see that there are more conservative blacks as opposed to liberal?
Let's look at this a little closer. What is a conservative black? What? No, I'm not asking you
You're
the
not asking me,
question.
'cause I
Actually,
have
I'm
the
going to make a
answer.
point
Oh,
on
okay.
this. And I'm saying, historically, we've been a conservative people anyway. We're a Southern people from the South. And I'm saying this, it seems to me that the foundation of the family in the South, religion, deep spiritual religious values in the South, the tradition of, you're talking about self-help, go back to the South 50 years ago and we had farms, land,
Yeah.
businesses, okay? That was self-help. This, to me, strikes me as a very, very traditionalist conservative approach. Now, I think it's a myth that all blacks are liberal and radical. That only came out of the 60s, when it appeared that we were all about to burn down the system, which wasn't true. You know why we've always seemed to be more liberal or radical than everybody else? You know why? Very simply, because they won't let us in the system. That's why. Our fight has never been to tear the system down. Really, it's been to get in the system, because we are American citizens, we are citizens, and we are taxpayers, and we have always demanded our rights under this system. That's what made us seem radical, because they have completely excluded us. But conservative values have run all through organizations and leadership, from Booker T. Washington, Frederick Douglass, W.E.B. Du Bois, Marcus Garvey, in the 30s, A. Philip Randolph, and even, yes, Malcolm X.
I agree with you 100%.
What do you want to say?
Also, I think the system encourages dependence on it. It propagates a kind of a institutionalizing of a victim way of thinking. So if there are a few blacks or a few needed people who may want the system, and there should be some form of the system, but when the system starts encouraging dependence, then the system becomes a victim of itself. And at that point, it becomes a backlash to black people as a whole.
Let me just say one last comment from everyone. Will Judge Thomas be confirmed, Joe?
Most positively, he'll be confirmed.
Earl?
Yes, and we still need to fight for our principles, organizations, leadership, and uplift.
How can we buy your book? What's your phone number there?
Area code 213-677-6311, Impact Publications.
The Mug of the Black American.
The Mug of the Black American.
Dennis, will he be confirmed?
Probably, but God, I hope not.
Frederick?
Yes.
He will be confirmed?
Yes.
Okay. I want to thank all of you for coming on today and helping us to understand what is going on. If nothing else comes from this nomination of Judge Thomas, it has opened the doors for a dialogue between black Americans. And again, Bond is 100% behind Judge Thomas. For more information concerning Bond, if you'd like to be a guest on the show, you can call us at 213-759-3844. That's 213-759-3844. Have a good day.
Somewhere in the world today, men have got to stand up strong, think the truth about themselves, to understand what went wrong. I know we can find a way. I know we can find a way. I know we can find